All right, Habibi gang, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be taking a look at the aftermath of that crazy match. Spurs versus Liverpool.
Yeah. I mean, 9 goals. What can you say about that?
A 9-goal thriller.
It was a proper roller coaster from start to finish, wasn't it?
Yeah. Definitely more roller coaster than a football match, to be honest.
Absolutely.
So to set the scene, let's just rewind to that moment where Luis Diaz put the game beyond any doubt with his second goal. It was the kind of finish that summed up the day, really.
I mean, clinical from Diaz, absolutely ruthless from Liverpool. It was really game over at that point.
Yeah. And what can you say about Spurs?
I mean, we'll get into it, but it really does sum up, I think, their defensive struggles all afternoon.
Yeah. So let's rewind a little bit and talk about exactly what went down at Anfield. What does this result mean for both sides?
Right. Let's start with the winners then. Liverpool at the top of the table now, extending their lead to 4 points.
Yeah, they look good, don't they?
They look really good. I think they're building something special this season.
I think you can't really argue with that. And I think this kind of result puts them top of the league at Christmas for a record 21st time.
21 times. That's incredible, really. And, that's not just some kind of, fun fact. That is a serious psychological edge, I think, to have over the rest of the league.
Yeah, I mean, is there any truth to that kind of old adage that if you're top at Christmas, you're likely to win the title?
I think there is a correlation there. Definitely, historically, Liverpool have gone on to win the league in 11 of the previous 20 seasons they've led at Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a 55% success rate. Now, obviously, it's not a guarantee.
Of course.
But it does show that when they're in this position, they tend to have that staying power to see it through to the end.
And talking about staying power, let's talk about Mo Salah. 2 goals, 2 assists. Honestly, Habibi gang, is this guy ever going to stop?
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, the man is a machine, and he's just broken a Premier League record.
Yeah.
Becoming the first player ever to hit double digits for both goals and assists before Christmas in a single season. I mean, we talk about complete forwards.
Yeah.
Salah is redefining what that even means.
Yeah, he's on another level.
Yeah.
And this makes it his 6th Premier League season with 10-plus goals and assists. He surpassed Wayne Rooney's record.
Wow.
And I think, with his contract expiring at the end of the season, what's next for the Egyptian king?
I mean, that is the question on every Liverpool fan's mind, isn't it?
It is.
But I think what we can look at from this performance is how the game is evolving. You see more and more attackers now that aren't just goal scorers, they're creators, they're facilitators,
They're involved in everything.
And Salah embodies that shift perfectly.
I think that's a really interesting point, and maybe something for us to come back to, but let's kind of flip the script a little bit and talk about Spurs. Mm-hmm. They came into this game with all guns blazing as usual, but, ended up shipping 6 goals. What went wrong at the back for them today?
I mean, look, you have to acknowledge Ange Postecoglou's philosophy. He's committed to this high-octane attacking style of football. And while it's incredibly entertaining to watch, it does leave them vulnerable at the back, especially against a team as ruthless as this Liverpool side.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a Spurs team that averages 3.6 goals a game under Postecoglou. That's the highest among managers with 50-plus games in the Premier League.
Wow, that's a lot of goals.
A lot of goals. So is this just the price you pay for playing such expansive football?
It's a delicate balancing act, isn't it? You want to thrill the fans.
Yeah.
You want to score goals, you want to win games, but you also need to be able to shut up shop when necessary. And I think Spurs haven't quite figured that out just yet.
No.
But to be fair to them, this was the first time they've lost by more than a single goal this season. So maybe this was just a case of, coming up against a Liverpool side that was firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe they just couldn't quite handle that onslaught. But let's get into some of the kind of granular detail here. What were some of the key tactical points that stood out for you? What won it for Liverpool, and where did Spurs fall short?
I think it starts with Liverpool's pressing. I mean, they suffocated Spurs in midfield. They forced errors. They created turnover after turnover. And once they won that ball back, the transition into attack was lightning fast.
So quick.
I mean, that counterattack for Szoboszlai's goal was a perfect example, absolutely clinical and devastatingly effective.
It was. And I think, one thing I was looking at was Diaz playing as a false 9. It was really interesting to watch because he wasn't the traditional target man, but his movement and his energy caused so many problems for the Spurs backline.
Yeah, absolutely. Spurs like to play with a high line, which usually works really well for them when they're controlling possession.
Yeah.
But against Liverpool's pressing, they just kept getting caught out. Diaz was constantly dropping deep, dragging the center backs out of position, and that was just creating so much space for runners like Salah and Jota to exploit. It was a tactical masterclass from Jurgen Klopp, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it really did kind of expose that high line that Spurs like to play. So, yeah, I think that's a great point. I think maybe this is a good point to move on to the managers. What did you think about the decisions that were made by Klopp and Postecoglou today? Did their tactics ultimately decide the outcome of this game?
Well, on the Liverpool side, I mean, Klopp's decision to play Diaz as a false nine was a stroke of genius. It completely disrupted Spurs' defensive structure, and I think, as we said, it was the key tactical decision that won them the game.
Yeah, I mean, it completely changed the game. And then on the other side of the pitch, you've got Postecoglou sticking to his guns, even when Spurs were 3-4 goals down. He didn't abandon that attacking philosophy.
Yeah, he's a believer, isn't he?
Yeah, so is that stubbornness, or is that kind of commendable commitment to his principles?
It's tough, isn't it? I mean, on the one hand, you admire his belief in his system. On the other hand, maybe a little bit of pragmatism wouldn't have gone amiss.
Yeah.
You know, maybe shifting to a more defensive shape in the latter stages could have prevented a couple of those late goals. But then again, who knows? Maybe if they had sat back, they wouldn't have scored those 3 goals of their own.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, Spurs did show moments of brilliance today. Kulusevski's goal was a peach. And, you know, even Solanke's finish showed that they've got the quality up front to really hurt teams.
Absolutely. Even in a heavy defeat like this, there are positives for Spurs to take away. You know, they're never going to be a team that parks the bus, and that's what makes them so exciting to watch. But they do need to find a way to be more defensively sound if they want to consistently compete at the top level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that Postecoglou will definitely be working on in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, going back to that Diaz goal, it really highlighted Liverpool's ability to just exploit those gaps that Spurs kept leaving at the back.
It was like they had a sixth sense for where the space was going to open up.
Yeah.
And Salah, Jota, you know, like sharks circling, just waiting to pounce.
And I think you can't underestimate the role of the midfielders in that, you know, Szoboszlai particularly. I thought he was dictating the tempo, picking out those killer passes that just slice through the Spurs defense.
He was pulling the strings, wasn't he?
He really was.
Every time he got on the ball, it felt like something dangerous was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you had the likes of, you know, Henderson, Fabinho doing the dirty work, winning those second balls, breaking up Spurs attacks. It was a complete midfield performance, really.
Yeah, it allowed those guys further forward to really express themselves.
For sure.
Let's talk about the substitutions Klopp brought on Thiago and Firmino in the second half.
Yeah.
Did they have the desired impact, do you think?
I think so. I mean, Thiago brought that extra bit of composure and control in midfield, which allowed Liverpool to just completely dominate possession in those closing stages. And then, you know, Firmino, even though he didn't get on the score sheet,
yeah,
his movement, his link-up play, I think just created a few more headaches for those Spurs defenders.
It felt like Liverpool could have scored a couple more, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think they took their foot off the gas a bit towards the end.
Yeah.
Which is understandable given the scoreline.
Yeah, of course.
But even then, they still looked dangerous every time they went forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the individual performances that really stood out for us. I mean, obviously Salah, phenomenal. But who else impressed you?
I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold was back to his best. You know, his delivery from set pieces was just pinpoint, and he was a constant threat going forward, as always.
Yeah, he got that assist for Salah's first goal, didn't he? That perfectly weighted cross right onto his head.
Textbook Trent. And I thought Van Dijk was immense at the back as well.
Yeah.
He just read the game so well. Snuffed out danger before it even materialized.
He was a calming presence, wasn't he, in that Liverpool defense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, even with Spurs scoring 3 goals, he still managed to look like he had everything under control.
Yeah, he never looked flustered, did he?
No, not at all. Okay, on the Spurs side, who stood out for you despite the heavy defeat?
I thought Kulusevski was a bright spark.
Yeah.
His goal was a thing of beauty, cutting inside onto his left foot and just curling it into the top corner.
It was world class, wasn't it?
It really was.
And I thought he was one of the few Spurs players that looked like he could really unlock that Liverpool defense.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I thought Son had his moments as well.
Yeah.
He always looks dangerous when he gets on the ball, and he did manage to grab a goal for himself.
He did, yeah, absolutely. Okay, as much as we could dissect this match all day long, let's zoom out a little bit and talk about the bigger picture. What does this result mean for both these teams moving forward?
Right. Well, for Liverpool, I think it's a statement of intent. You know, they're top of the league, playing with swagger, scoring goals for fun. They're the team to beat right now, and they look like they have the belief and the quality to go all the way this season.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely look like the favorites at this point.
Yeah.
But we've seen plenty of twists and turns in the Premier League before. Is there anything that could derail their title charge?
I mean, injuries are always a concern, especially when you're relying on key players like Salah and Van Dijk, and they still have some tough fixtures coming up, including that trip to the Etihad to face Manchester City.
It's going to be a huge test for them.
Massive.
Okay, what about Spurs? Where do they go from here after this heavy defeat?
I think they just need to keep believing in what they're doing. Postecoglou has a clear vision for how he wants his team to play, and as we've seen, they've shown that they can compete with the best on their day.
Yeah, but they do need to tighten up at the back.
Yeah. Absolutely. They can't afford to keep conceding goals at this rate if they want to challenge for a top 4 spot.
No, for sure. Ready to kind of wrap up our deep dive into this absolute goal fest at Anfield.
Yeah, it was a match that really did have everything, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, stunning goals, tactical battles, individual brilliance.
Absolutely.
But what does it tell us about the bigger picture in the Premier League?
Well, I think it confirms what a lot of people have suspected, which is that this Liverpool side are the real deal this season. They're playing with such confidence and intensity.
Yeah.
Reminds me of those title-winning campaigns that they had under Klopp.
Yeah.
And they've got the squad depth as well, I think, to maintain that level throughout the season.
So are you saying it's Liverpool's title to lose?
I wouldn't go that far just yet.
Okay.
There's still a long way to go in the season.
Of course.
And, as we mentioned before, there are those potential pitfalls like injuries, fixture congestion, the pressure of expectation.
Yep.
These can all play a role, but right now,
Yeah.
they are the team to beat. Everyone else is chasing them.
Yeah, and what about Spurs? Can they bounce back from this defeat and still challenge for a top 4 spot?
I think they can't. I mean, they've certainly got the attacking firepower to beat anyone on their day.
Yeah.
But they need to find a way to shore up that defense without sacrificing their attacking principles.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is a tough balance.
But I think Postecoglou is the right man to figure it out.
Yeah. I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see how he approaches that in the coming weeks and months. But it is interesting to see how this Premier League landscape is shaping up. We've got Liverpool looking dominant up at the top.
Yeah.
But then you've got the likes of Man City, Arsenal, even Chelsea lurking in the shadows, waiting to capitalize on any slip-ups.
Yeah, you're right. That's what makes the Premier League so compelling. It's unpredictable, it's competitive, it's full of surprises, and I think this match between Spurs and Liverpool was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We saw individual brilliance from players like Salah, Kulusevski, tactical innovations from Klopp.
Yeah.
The never say die spirit of both teams.
Absolutely. And, we can't forget the fans as well.
The Habibi gang.
The Habibi gang. I mean, the atmosphere at Anfield was electric, and I think that definitely played a role in pushing Liverpool onto that victory.
Yeah, I mean, the Premier League is nothing without the passion and the energy of the supporters.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I have to ask you about the elephant in the room, which is Mo Salah's contract situation.
Oh, yeah.
What's your prediction? Is he staying or is he going?
Honestly, it's anyone's guess at this point. He's
Yeah.
given no indication of what his intentions are.
He's very quiet on it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's keeping his cards close to his chest. The rumors are swirling. He could sign a new deal. He could move to a new club. He could even retire. Who knows?
Well, Habibi gang, I think it's time to throw this one over to you. What do you think is next for Mo Salah? Let us know your predictions down in the comments.
Yeah, or join the discussion on our official Habibi Gang community.
Absolutely. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Pundit Habibi podcast for more in-depth football analysis, insightful discussions, and plenty of banter.
That's right.
Until next time, Habibi gang, keep the passion for the beautiful game alive.
See you later.